evening and welcome to JJ Wins in Holiday City as we kick off our Wednesday installment of Sports Weekly, driven by Terry Hendricks Ford, also presented by JJ Wins, Bryan Parks and Recreation Department, Fackler Monument Company, and the main stops of Northwest Ohio. A couple of good guests with us tonight. In segment number 2 tonight, we have a lengthy interview with former Wauseon Lady Indians head basketball coach Brad Myers. That was a pre-recorded interview because Brad now back into education down in the Columbus area. So Brad will be joining us via the phone lines here tonight, and you'll hear all about that terrific year back in 1997. First up, though, live with us here tonight at JJ Wins is the head men's basketball coach at Trine University, and Brooks Miller, an Evergreen grad, with us. We're just talking old high school days and playing days and successful run at Trine. Welcome to the show for a second time.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Andy, and honored to be on with Coach Myers as well, to share the show with him. You know, growing up at Evergreen, Wauseon was kind of they were the gold standard. You know, I grew up watching Tyson Langendefer, Corey Griggs, and his teams with Katie Griggs that had all those championship runs, and that's who we wanted to be at Evergreen. That's what we worked for, and we were able to win the conference in '98. And thinking about those teams, that really meant a lot to us. Probably one of the greatest accomplishments I can tell you that I've been a part of was that '98 NWL championship, which was Evergreen's first.
And we were talking about how great a basketball it was in the NWL and in Northwest Ohio back in those late '90s years.
Yeah, absolutely. '97, I was a sophomore at Evergreen, and I think we ended up 15-10 that year. But we made it all the way to the regionals and won the district. We were able to beat Bryan, who won the league, and shared it that night with that loss in the last game of the year with Patrick Henry, who won the state championship. So there was a bunch of great programs, a lot of high-quality coaches. Coach Brown, that was at Stryker for a long time, came to our practice last week, and we talked about Coach Burguy, and I still stay in touch with Coach Krause. We went and played at Findlay the other night in a really close exhibition game, and Coach Krause was there, and I get a chance to talk to him. Coach Dave Krause has been a good friend, and then my high school coach, Jerry Kiefer, and I are in contact almost every day, and just a real fortunate time to grow up. Great place to grow up. There's a lot, I've been all over the country, Texas, Florida, Mississippi, Oklahoma, lots of different places, and Northwest Ohio is a really special place. We really value athletics as part of the education and the development of the boys and girls in high school and the men as they become men and women.
Brooks, you and I were visiting off air, and we can talk a little bit about it now. This is your 12th season at Trine. When you took the job a dozen years ago, was there any kind of a plan on, I'm going to be here X amount of years, and then maybe I want to go up another division or two? Or was this, now that you've been there and you found a home and a fit and for you and your family, tell us a little bit about how this has all materialized.
I've made a couple really great decisions in my life. The first one, marrying my wife, Gretchen, who's with us tonight, and all the other jobs that I got, having the opportunity to go back and help Coach Kiefer out at Evergreen as a volunteer assistant my first year out of college was a no-brainer situation. I think I worked for free beer at the state tournament, which I still believe I paid for that year. But and then I had a chance to go back and work with my coach at Hillsdale College, Ed Dalma, who was a really special mentor to me. He won a national championship at Calvin College. I worked for him for 3 years, knew I wanted that job. And then a couple years after that, I ran into Coach Pat Knight down at the Final Four, who I knew through Coach Dalma, and when they offered me a chance to be a GA with Coach Knight, it was a no-brainer. My wife and I were engaged. We changed our wedding plans. We did everything we had to do on the fly, and we moved to Texas. And then I had an opportunity to go work for Steve Green at junior college. He's the winningest junior college coach in the history of junior college. He's won 3 national championships, could have won 2 more. He's now an assistant at Texas Tech, but those situations were great learning experiences for me where I had to go out on my own and go away and really learn about how to play the game. As players in high school and college, we play basketball, but as a coach, you really learn how to play the game, how to win, how to play to win. And then when the job came up at Trine, it was a no-brainer. My wife and I, yes, what do we got to do to be there? I actually I was on a recruiting trip from West Texas to Arkansas when I got the call to come meet with the president. We were crossing the Red River when I picked up the phone, and they said, well, the president would like to meet with you tomorrow at noon. I said, well, that's going to be tough. I got this meeting tonight in Little Rock with this kid. I got to go work out and take out to dinner. And they said, well, it's the only time we can do it. So I drove through the night, stopped at Effingham at the truck stop, took a nap, pieced together a suit at Steinmart in Fort Wayne. And after about an hour and a half nap, met with Dr. Brooks, got the job, and we just fell in love with Angola. And it's a really special place.
Tell us about the building and the evolution of this program, kind of under your tutelage and the assistants that you've had and the kids that you've had, the young men that have gone through. How has this gone for you here in these 12 years?
Well, I've taken a lot from the coaches that I've had. You know, Coach Kiefer, there's nobody that cares more about his players than Coach Kiefer at Evergreen. You know, playing for him and working for him is just such a special experience. And then I'm calling him after every game, picking his brain and things. And the things I got to learn from Coach Knight, Coach Green, and Coach Dauma, guys that have won a combined 7 national championships, was really special. But one of my biggest mentors as a coach was Doug Williams from Archibald. Coach Williams came to work for me after helping out Coach Krause at Archibald a few years, and really teach. I think that in the game, I think as coaches sometimes, and I'm a little older now, a little more experienced, but you hear young coaches say, well, we told them to do this or we told them to do that. Well, I tell my kids they got to brush their teeth, but they don't always go do that. You know, you got to teach them how to do it. You got to teach them the value of why we're doing things. And Coach Williams was phenomenal at that. He really loved to teach and not to take anything for granted when you're explaining something to a young man about how playing to win, being productive, accomplishing something in everything that you do. So I've been very, very lucky.
Brooks, what do you look for when you want to get a student athlete to come play for you at Trine?
Well, we really want them to, just like we want my son Champ here, who's 8, and my daughter Jordan, who's 5. We want them to hang out with kids, with parents from like-minded values. So we want to recruit kids from programs that know how to win, and that kids that know how to be challenged, want to be challenged. We've had a lot of success with guys from St. John's, a lot of success from guys from Northwest Ohio in general, and the most successful teams we've had are groups of young men that come from families that send them to Trine because they're there to get an education. And they know it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a challenge. And they come from winning programs that understand that this is how you win. They bring good habits into the locker room, not even knowing that they have them. The value of respecting someone's time by being there and being prepared on time. You know, we talk about it with school as well. You know, we really don't have a whole lot of rules. We treat our men like men, but they go to class and they finish assignments when they're due. Those are 2 things that we can do no matter what type of IQ you got or how smart you are in a certain subject. Those are things we can control. And we try to take those controllables over to the basketball floor. We emphasize shot fakes a lot, pass fakes. You can do those whether you're 5'8" or you're 6'8". It makes no difference. So we want our guys that come through our program to really develop an identity of not just a basketball player, but who they are as people. Because things are going to get tough. And you want to rely on who you are, those core values when things don't go your way. And we use basketball as an educational tool. I tell people the difference between me and the science professor is he's using books and labs, and I'm using a court and balls. And we're trying to educate in different subjects, but really in general, we're trying to prepare them for the rest of their life.
And all the athletes that play a college sport at any level are special athletes, okay? But the level of athlete that you get and what they're coming to do, I mean, this is really a love of the game that want to continue that and further that and continue to compete. Talk about that, because you mentioned you've been at all divisions.
Yeah.
What are the athletes that are like, from their perspective, as they come in and play for you at Trine, maybe then at other locations and other division and school sizes?
Well, I think that the individuals that we get at the Division III level, the one thing that's really fun but also can be frustrating, and everybody has their pluses and minuses, but we will get individuals that have shortcomings. But execution at the Division III level is much more important than the talent. It's really kind of a balance sheet. When I was at Texas Tech with Coach Knight as a graduate assistant, Oklahoma had Blake Griffin. Texas they just graduated, or Kevin Durant just left, but they had 3 or 4 other guys that played in the NBA. Kansas State had Bill Walker and they had these nuclear weapons. Like, it didn't matter how well we executed something. I remember sitting in a meeting with Coach and his staff where he said, well, how we want to guard Oklahoma the second time around? Do we want to front Blake Griffin, or do we want to play behind him? Well, the video guy pulls up clips where we played behind him. He took 2 dribbles, turned, and just hammered it over us. And then we pulled up a clip where we were fronting him, and he got every offensive rebound for 5 or 6 possessions. So in Division III, there's a lot of things we can do based on execution. Now, it's still relative, just like in high school. You got to have great players to win championships. But that value of execution, the lower levels, it really goes up. So as a coach, there's always something we can really kind of do to help give our guys an opportunity to be successful if we can do it together. And at Trine, if you come watch us play, I'm not saying that this is the right way to play for everybody. I do think we have a unique way to play, but everything we have to do is collective. We have a scheme, defensive team style, keep the ball out of the middle, dependent on rotations. We don't ask anybody to guard anybody one-on-one. I think that's really difficult to do when you're trying to win a championship and beat other championship programs with elite players. I think you have to do it together. And we don't ask anybody to dribble between their legs, behind their back, or spin move to score the basketball. We try to create angles by sharing the basketball, moving it quickly, setting great screens, cutting hard, all types of unselfish things that you can do that you use in the basketball floor that you can take with you. Obviously, you're not going to pass the ball at work, but there's things you can do at work that maybe not everybody recognizes that makes the group better. So those are things we try to do, and the challenges in Division III that make it really rewarding when you see that group come together.
18-9 last season, and did a great job. You're 10-4 in the MIAA, which is the Trine Conference for those that didn't know, and not that far removed from a terrific regular season when you went 17-0 and in 20 and 21, which I know was a challenging year for everybody. I'm glad it feels a little bit more back to normal now in what you're doing. So off of that success of the last couple of years, and really it's been a building success, I think, through your years there. Tell us about this year's team, and I guess specifically last night you got things started on a winning note against Manchester, but tell us a little bit about some expectations and what, if they go to watch a game at Trine, what can they expect out of this group?
Well, you can expect us to compete really, really hard. We have about 6 new faces in the rotation. 3 of those individuals are new to Trine, new to our program. But we have 3 sophomores that are new to the rotation, and they're all guards. So we have 2 all-conference big guys coming back. Brent Cox was a first-team all-conference player in 2021 when we were 17-1 and went and played for the Pole Championship in Division III. And then Emmanuel Magnanglo is now a junior for us. He was the Defensive Player of the Year that year as well. So we have some good size. Brent had 24 last night, was 4 for 7 from 3, did some great things around the basket. But I think what you're going to see is just a collective effort. You're going to see a lot of guys that are working for each other, that really know how to communicate. We have Grant Paul from Southview High School out of Sylvania, who's a sophomore, really stepping into a bigger role for us and doing a fantastic job. Cameron Alls is from Central Catholic and out of Toledo, and he's handling the ball quite a bit for us and had a really great first game with only 1 turnover and making sure we got the ball side to side on reversals, working the ball inside and out. So it's an exciting group. The one thing about it, it's that I have found from last year when we had a bunch of guys returning, they kind of, they've heard what you had to say a lot. So we had to make some adjustments to practice, to some scouting, to some of the things that we had to do to still keep it interesting. This year's group, where the rotation and the minutes are still up for grabs, they tend to listen a little bit harder and do a little bit more of what we're trying to do each and every day. So the focus is a little bit better. So it's been a lot more fun. Now also our staff, I have Coach Kyle Lindsay with me as my full-time assistant from Ottawa Hills. His dad, John.
Been there forever.
As a Hall of Fame coach at Ottawa Hills. And then Drew Lehman is with us still as an assistant coach, who is a great player at Central Catholic, went all the way to the championship game under Coach Jim Welling and was an All-American at Ferris State. And then John Wauseon, who is he's a Northeast Indiana guy, retired educator, really loves basketball. He's in our Hall of Fame at Trine as a player, and it's great to have him on board. So it's a group we've enjoyed teaching these guys, and they've really taken it in each and every step, and we're just excited to see where we can get it. As far as expectations, the expectations at Trine are to win. That's the way it goes. There's no such thing as rebuilding where we're at. We have to find a way to reload, retool, and get our team prepared to be playing its best that last weekend in February when we get to the MIAA tournament.
Just some quick numbers from last night. 48% from the field, dominated Manchester on the backboard, 47-25. Points in the paint by 20, and your bench 2-1 last night as well. So all those things, if those trends continue, that spells a lot of success potentially.
Yeah, we really try to focus on this is the first really good rebounding team we've had. I think our scheme kind of leads to, when we're flying around a lot, we're not as in position to rebound as much, but our mentality this year's been significant. We went to Findlay in an exhibition game and were able to out-rebound them, a Division II school. We dominated the glass last night, and that's something, when you have a new team or new ball handlers, a new backcourt like we have, there's some things we can control to get more possessions. We may have a few more turnovers early in the year because we're getting used to playing together, but how do we make up that difference? Well, our go-get-it guys, go get it. Our get-back guys, get back. So we try to simplify it as much as we can. The field goal percentage is big. We've really shared the ball pretty well in the past, and then I don't see that'll be any different this year. And I think that has a lot to do with your field goal percentage. The more you can get it side to side, we really believe in sharing the ball, attacking the ball, and going and getting the ball. When in doubt, that's what I tell them. Hey, if it's not one of those three things, you're probably wrong. But if you're doing one of those three things, we're probably working together and having some success.
What's your league look like this year, the MIAA?
We have a lot of depth. We have two historically powerhouses in Hope and Calvin. Hope College up in Holland, Michigan, and Calvin College over in Grand Rapids has won a couple of national championships. They dominated the league up until the last 4 years. We had Bryce Williams graduated from us from Archibald High School, had a tremendous career, was an all-conference player, and his class that graduated this year, over 4 years, won more MIAA contests than any school in our league over 4 years. We won 2 championships in the regular season and 1 conference tournament championship. So we were really proud of that, but now we got to keep building, like you said. So with the experience as coaches and players, we get together and we come together and figure out what we got to do to get better that next day. And it's something as a coach, as Coach Myers, I'm sure will tell you, it just doesn't go away. It's with you all the time. When you close your eyes, this is what you see. You see a guy setting a great screen and popping and, faking a pass to make a pass into the post. But, really, I just feel really fortunate to have been around the game as long as I have. And it has everything to do with the mentors that I've had growing up in Northwest Ohio like this and being able to learn and see how other successful people have done it and doing everything we can to represent Trine with the amount of respect it deserves.
And that's one more question I wanted to ask you about. For those that haven't been up there in a while, facilities are second to none, especially for a school, D3 school. Talk about what that's like going into. We were talking about the atmosphere just at your game last night and practice and play and all of that, and not just basketball. This is across the board. Right across the board. We've had a lot of success in football. We just put up a $150,000 video board at our football stadium. We have the MTI Center. I don't think there's anything like it in all of small college. When I say small college, I'm talking Division II, Division III, NAIA. It's a really, really unique facility. It's a basketball-only facility. And what we try to explain to the young men that we're recruiting and bringing to part of our program, what Bryce's class did the last 4 years, is it's a basketball-only. So our guys are in there all the time with individual workouts. We have our own weight room. We had individual film sessions in our film room today with about 5 or 6 of our new guys. So you can only get better. It's all about development, and it's across the board at Trine. We just put up a brand new Steel Dynamics building. It's a state-of-the-art engineering building. It's second to none in the region. We're the fastest growing private school in the Midwest, and we have incredible leadership there. Dr. Brooks has been with us Dr. Earl Brooks has been with us for over 22 years and has brought a real conservative form of leadership of this is how we get things done, this is what we need, this is how we're going to do it. And it's we've never really needed a committee to make a lot of decisions around Trine. There's a lot of common sense leadership decisions. It's just a fantastic place to work. So a couple of the big things in college athletics now that we know a lot more about and we're continuing to know and learn about is NIL and the transfer portal. Does that affect you at Trine, and if so, how much and how? Absolutely. I think
we have there's a company actually out of Archibald, Ohio. It's called Skills for Success Basketball Clinics, and what they do is they promote team. So we have these leadership clinics that we put on. We go into these schools, or we've been to the YMCA clubs. We've been to the Boys and Girls Club in Fort Wayne. We've been down the Indianapolis Healthplex. But we go for an hour and a half, give a free clinic to kids. And all we talk about is being a great teammate. Our stations are based on enthusiasm, sharing the ball, being unselfish, and then we incorporate that into how we play for an hour and a half. And a lot of our players are involved in that, so they're able to really capitalize and share their values of what they think of how to play basketball. So we'll go to one of those events that's got a sponsor, and our guys are paid by the Skills for Success company. So that's helped us tremendously, and it's something that we want to continue to grow. We work really hard at trying to find opportunities for our players within the NIL guidelines, and they're great opportunities. You know, if there's a young man that's getting a full scholarship somewhere, he's getting his room, books, and board all paid for, who would you rather help out? Would you rather help that guy out, or would you rather help out a Division III kid like Brent Cox, who's an all-conference player for us, who wakes up, works at McDonald's shift from 6 to 10 a.m., goes to class from 11 to 2, and then practices from 3 to 5. So I think there's people out there that want to help. There's a lot of individuals they can reach out to and find things for them to do, whether it's working a birthday party or doing some kind of event. There's a lot of different things and opportunities they can to help these guys out.
Well said. Earlham is coming up next. That's another home game here on November 11th? Saturday? Friday.
Yeah, Friday night.
Friday night. So if people want to come on out to the game, it's a great opportunity to do that this Friday night.
Absolutely. Earlham's going to be a great test for us. Their head coach is a former assistant of mine, Joe Shoyers. He does an excellent job with them.
This is what happens when you start coaching 12 years and beyond.
That's right.
You're playing now assistants. You're not the young kid as much
anymore.
Yeah.
So we're excited about that, and we would love to have everybody come that can make it. Home court advantage is a real thing at every level, and I think the more people we can get to support us, I can guarantee you this, if you come out and watch this environment. We were 6th in the nation last year in attendance for men's basketball in Division III, something we're really proud of. But there is something there to watch that you can really look forward to, especially people that have not been to a small college game. And if you have kids that are coming up in junior high or are in high school and you think they want to play college basketball, come out and watch Defiance College play. Come watch Trine play. Go watch Ohio Northern. Go watch Hillsdale College play. See what that atmosphere is like. See how good those players are and how great those teams are. And just really understand and respect what we're trying to do. And it is part of the education, and we would love to have everybody that can come.
Pleasure visiting with you, Brooks. Thanks for coming over here and spending some time with us. I know you have a hectic schedule right now. Certainly appreciate it. Loved watching you play. You're doing a great job up at Trine, and continue to have that great success up there.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me and all that you do for these kids, especially in high school. Having you guys at their games means the world to them. It meant the world to me, and what you guys do is a very big thing, and really appreciate you promoting those young men and women.
Brooks Miller, head coach of the Trine men's basketball team, our first guest here tonight. We're going to step aside. When we come back, we will talk with Brad Myers about that 1997 state championship team for the Wauseon Lady Indians, and a visit with Brad on the other side.
It's Thirsty Thursday at all the main stops in Northwest Ohio. What does that mean? It means that every Thursday, all day long, you will get any size fountain drink or any size coffee for only 79 cents. All day long, every Thursday, any size fountain drink, any size coffee or cappuccino. Stop in to your main stop and see everything they have to offer every day. Main stops, always there when you need us.
When it comes to choosing a memorial that represents the lasting memories of a person's life, the Fackler Monument Company in Montpelier, Ohio can create exactly what you are looking for, like an eagle soaring through the woods etched on a memorial, a bench that has mom and dad's names engraved into the granite to sit and reflect, a picture of the family farm etched on the stone, or maybe your style is a memorial that has a split headstone with a vase in between for flowers. The Fackler Monument Company of Montpelier, Ohio, serving families in the tri-state area since 1924.
The Bryan Parks and Recreation Department would like to wish the Bryan Golden Bears good luck in tonight's game. The Bryan Parks and Rec offers a wide variety of classes for you during the entire year and an array of sporting events all year long. Check out what the Bryan Parks and Recreations Department has going on at bryanparksandrec.com or like them on Facebook. The Bryan Parks and Rec hopes to see you in one of the many parks that Bryan has to offer and enjoy the facilities. Questions about the classes or rental of one of their facilities, call 633-6030.
I want to talk to you for the next 30 seconds about the place to go for your next vehicle. Terry Hendricks Ford on Stryker Street in Archibald. Whether it's a new vehicle for purchase, a lease vehicle, or perhaps a pre-owned vehicle, Terry Hendricks Ford on Stryker Street in Archibald is the place to turn. They also have this fantastic service department as well. Service after the sale. Terry Hendricks Ford, serving all of your vehicle needs in Northwest Ohio. Go to terryhendricksford.com. Hey there, this is Andy Brigle from B-Rock 100.9 and 15 Minutes with Andy. Just an update on Season 3 of 15 Minutes with Andy. We're ready to drop the new season, and it'll happen just before Thanksgiving. All new guests. All new, inspirational, and fantastic, heartwarming stories to tell in our new season of 15 Minutes with Andy. If you'd like to check out or revisit any of the guests from Seasons 1 or 2, all you need to do is head to our 15 Minutes with Andy YouTube page, and you'll be able to find everybody that we've had on as a guest so far. We want to thank all of those guests. We want to thank all of our subscribers, and we want to thank you for the positive feedback for the first 2 seasons of 15 Minutes with Andy. The new season, Season 3 of 15 Minutes with Andy, ready to drop the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Be listening for 15 Minutes with Andy, the podcast. We continue with this Wednesday night edition of Sports Weekly, driven by Terry Hendricks Ford, and our thanks here as we kind of continue here. We saw that this year, whether it be 22 or 23, resulted in a lot of great teams in our area in various sports celebrating anniversary years of winning state championships. And I know it would have been technically last winter, 96, 97, and there would have been 21, 22 sort of thing. But we're doing this still in 22, and the championship happened in 97, so we're going with that 25 years ago. And that was the Wauseon Girls winning a state basketball championship back in 1997. And we're so happy to catch up with the coach of that team and for a lot of really good teams at Wauseon and Girls Basketball, Brad Myers. And Brad, thanks so much for your time here, and certainly appreciate it. Welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. It's always great to reminisce about past teams and the relationships that were built during those seasons.
Brad, does it feel like 25 years?
No, it really doesn't. It's hard to believe it's been that long. One of the things I've been out of coaching for a while too, so you kind of lose track of those relationships, and that's one of the things I miss is the coaches, and not only on our staff, but coaches on opposing teams, and obviously the relationship with the players as well. I do see some past players from time to time, but not a lot. So,
Brad, let's talk about that group, and kind of going into that season, and you knew, I think, a little bit ahead of time what this group possibly could be capable of. I mean, you never know how that's going to shake out, but as you went into this 96-97 season and with this team, what was internally the coaching staff's hopes and expectations of this group?
Well, like you said, we had everybody back from the previous year, but I think we got beat out in the district level the time before. So to make that jump, a lot of times it's kind of gradual. You have some success, and we had some success prior to that, getting into the districts, and even it was a while before we even won a league championship. So it was a process. I don't think I could have imagined making that jump to actually winning a state championship. We knew we had obviously some talent there, and we had some previous success with that group, and just an overall good group that really worked hard at it. And having everybody back obviously made a big difference.
Boy, that group, I remember seeing that group playing a lot of league games because the NWOAL was so good during that time. Not that it just felt like it was a very deep league that year in those years. So you got to see on a league basis really good competition, and then of course stepping out of the league, Wauseon has always been a school that has played really good teams, whether they be from the Toledo area or wherever it might be. You always scheduled extremely well. So that group, tell me about that group, I guess, overall, like refresh our listeners' memories of who was involved in that group and on this team.
Well, I think one of the kind of, I guess, a funny thing, when they were very young, there was always that talk that, then this group gets up here. There's some names with some athletic families in there. They had siblings, maybe that a couple of them had siblings that were on the boys' state tournament team in '93, I believe it was. Katie Griggs, her brother Corey played. Kelly Burguy, her dad was obviously the boys' coach for a long time, and her brother played on that team. Just had some extremely good athletes on that team. Stacy Roth went on to play softball at Ohio State. So a lot of good athletes there. At that point, Ashley Schrock was young then, but she went on to play at Cleveland State. We had a number of other quality players in that team. Just overall, a lot of depth. Bree Wood was a senior on that team. Amberly Noss was a senior on that team. Kind of our floor general, she had moved in a couple years before from Kentucky, so that was definitely a blessing. Kind of added a missing piece to that team, and really kind of made us go during that time. We had Val Sanders, Val Williams now. There's some married names in there that I apologize I may not get right. I still think of them back at that time. But yeah, a lot of good athletes, and it worked extremely hard even from a young age coming up. Like I said, we kind of saw that at a young age, but you never know how that's going to work out.
What did that group do well? When you got between, and maybe it wasn't all between, I was going to say when you got between the lines, what did they do well? But obviously to be a state champion, it goes beyond than just playing well on the floor. You have to be smart and tenacious and competitive. Tell me a little bit about this group overall and what you and the staff liked about them, really from the get-go, I guess.
Well, like you said, they were very smart off the floor, but just their knowledge on the floor was, they had played so much and they played so much together. I know it's cliche about team chemistry and team unity, and you can do some certain things to develop that, but this team had that. If there were issues, they took care of it. Honestly, I didn't have to deal with a lot of issues with this team, and that's huge. But they also had, obviously, the talent, and they worked at it extremely hard. But they were so smart on the court, so you could make adjustments in game with them, and they would respond to that. And they were able to react on the floor as well. So, like having a lot of coaches out there on the floor. So that was probably one of the biggest things, was the chemistry and just their basketball knowledge, and obviously their skill.
I touched on the NWOAL, and people, time gets away from you at 25 years, but as you stop and thought about, there was a lot of good teams with a lot of good players back in that, let's say 95, 96, 97, 98 range. I mean, it was just a really, I don't know if I want to go, not necessarily the golden era, because there have been a lot of times the league has been really good, but boy, that was a good one. That was one of them for sure.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, their teams are very, very competitive. I remember, the late Larry Botsberger always was very competitive at Liberty Center. He came into our place and gave us a heck of a game, kind of slowed down the tempo. And the coaches they're very good coaches in the league that prepared their teams very well. Obviously had some very good battles with Archibald during that time. Patrick Henry went on to win and make it to the state as well. I remember I think it was the following year actually, where they played at our house, and that was as full as I've seen our gym. It was just crazy. So yeah, there was definitely some very good teams in that time, and that prepared you for the tournament as well.
Let's talk about the tournament. What do you remember about the beginning, before we get to the state games? What do you remember about, whether it be sectionals, district, regionals, whatever the case may be? I jotted down you had wins over Lakota and Margaretta in the regional round that year. What do you remember about anything prior to it or the regional games?
I think you got into the district. I think we played Allen East in the district, so there were some teams that we weren't necessarily as familiar with when you start getting to the district, and especially the regional level. Although Lakota was a team that I knew Dick Heller, their coach, and we had scrimmaged before, so we did have some familiarity there with Lakota and the regionals. Margaretta actually was very good at that time. It seemed like we're always at least the regional level. They had some very competitive games. If my memory serves me right, I think, teams were very competitive. A lot of the games were very close at halftime, but we were fortunately able to pull away in the second half against some of those teams. And one of the things with that team, if we were able to get a lead late in the game, we had a lot of good ball handlers, so we were able to kind of milk the clock a little bit, get some easy baskets, and kind of spread things out too if it got to that point.
So I want to ask about two moments. One, winning a regional championship and knowing that first part of school history was being made when you beat Margaretta in that regional final and get down to Columbus. What was that feeling like as a group, as a program, I guess as a school district and a community, Brad, to know we're headed to Columbus and doing it as a girls basketball team for the first ever in school history?
I mean, it's just a great feeling. I guess it's kind of hard to describe, but I think in a community like Wauseon that supports their athletics, it makes it that much better. You knew you had the following in the regional with students as well as the community as a whole, and the community really rallies around you, so it really adds to that feeling. It's a busy time, so it's hard to, I guess, maybe take all of it in at that time, but to reflect on what that was like is just a great feeling. Really kind of hard to describe. And these girls had really kind of set that as a goal at an early age, really, to make it there. And so that was it was great to be able to accomplish that point and obviously be able to go beyond that.
Now, I'm not going to say easy because there were no games that were easy, especially from a coaching and playing perspective. But the end result, you beat Utica 57-33 in the semis, and you beat Chagrin Falls 71-49 to win the state championship. I forgot back. What were your days did you go back-to-back semi to final, or did you have a day in between to have a little more prep time?
We did have a day in between. I think we played Thursday night and then Saturday. I think we were the second round, so played Thursday night and then would have the second championship game on Saturday then. So we did have a day in between to prepare. Like you said, the outcomes would be something I would have never imagined, but the kids prepared very well. We were fortunate enough to get a pretty good scouting report on Utica. And some of their tendencies and things like that, and then obviously you just have that one day to prepare. I remember preparing for Chagrin Falls. They definitely had a size advantage on us, so it was one of those things where we were pretty much up tempo anyway, and that's what we thought was going to be a big key in that game. And the girls just responded just pretty unbelievable. You just don't know how it was going to respond on that stage. But we had good chemistry on that team. We just had some good personalities on that team. And I think even at games like that, it kept the team kind of loose, and they were able to perform.
Can you, talking with Brad Myers, who coached Wauseon to a state championship back in 96-97, and then they made a return trip to Columbus back in 97-98 as well. We'll touch on that briefly in a moment. Can you describe for our listeners, not everybody listening, very few people, as a matter of fact, maybe listening, know what it's like in any capacity to be on a championship team of that caliber, winning a state title in a team sport, and in this case, girls basketball. What was that like for you and the kids and the program, Brad? And not just in that moment, but I guess in the days and now years after that.
No, it's just great to be able to reflect on that. I mean, like I said, it's really hard to describe the feeling, but it's really a situation where you are obviously overjoyed, and the thing is, after you win it, and it's a great accomplishment, and even going, like you said, the days after that, when we got home, the community support and packed the auditorium. I think it was that year we were in the auditorium, but anyway, packed the school and with the return trip and driving around town and seeing just an unbelievable feeling, and to be able to enjoy it. I mean, this group got along so well, so it really added to it. The thing you could probably have some groups where maybe you have issues along the way or whatever that maybe makes it so it's maybe not as enjoyable. But I can honestly say with this group and how fun a group it was and not having to deal with a lot of issues, it just made it even that more enjoyable. And again, being able to win it for the community as well was quite the feeling.
Well, you get a lot of those kids back. I just wanted to briefly touch on, because that wasn't just one team and done. You get most of those kids back, and you made it back to state. And, unfortunately for you guys, didn't have the same ending, lost in the state semifinals that year to Dover in 98. But, still to go back to Columbus, huge accomplishment for that group of kids, your staff, and that program in the school district of Wauseon as well. Probably it was. All right, here's a question. Harder the second time to get back because now the target is there on your back? Is that fair to say, Brad?
Yeah, I definitely think the expectations were there. Like I said, going to that previous year, we had high expectations, but I don't know. We had not been there before, so I don't know, people outside maybe looking at us and, maybe not knowing for sure about us. But going back the next year, then people obviously, if you win a state championship, know about you and prepare for you. And the other thing is we stepped up to Division II that year, which added another factor in there. I think it makes it just the physicality of the game, and stepping up in a division makes a difference too. Our team was a little more finesse, I guess. I mean, we could be physical too, but we just didn't have the size of some of the D2 teams, so that made a difference as well. But the expectations were obviously there. I remember winning, a district game against Lima Bath that was just a grind and a struggle, grind into overtime, and we were behind. And the girls just stuck with it. Basically, just would not accept the defeat. So, it was definitely a little bit more difficult, and the end result wasn't what we wanted, but it definitely could be proud of the accomplishments that year as well.
Oh, absolutely. State title in 1 year and a return to the Final Four the next. 52-1 stretch over the 2-year period for Wauseon Girls Basketball. Pretty amazing group of kids, and I guess as we kind of wind down here, I'll let you talk a little bit about them, because as good a basketball players they were, it sounds as if you've kind of dropped a few of them by name, but it sounds as if not just a smart group, but just an overall terrific group of girls basketball players that have turned into incredible young women now as well.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, they're very successful in their own right. A lot of them went on to be different, obviously a lot of different things, but have their own families, a lot of them now, and some of them are back in the Wauseon community. Some of them are there's actually a few down where I am currently at in the Columbus area, too. I get to see every once in a while, too. So, it's great to see them in later years then and see their families, and a lot of them have their own kids now too, and getting involved in a lot of different things. So it's definitely great to see, and like I said, they are definitely very, very successful in what they're doing now as well, and they really kind of set a precedent for our program, and expectations, I guess, for our program in the years to come. Even there's that expectation of what we wanted to do. We didn't hit that pinnacle again while I coached, but we got back to the regionals a few times, a number of league championships as well. So they really kind of set a precedent for the younger kids to follow as well.
Did I hear is Katie Griggs into coaching, or if that's not the case, I know, is it the Perrysburg district? And I hear her daughter is pretty good, which would make sense that an apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
She actually has nieces in the Perrysburg.
Nieces, okay.
District. Yeah, in the Perrysburg district. She was at the University of Toledo for a while coaching, and I think then was maybe an operations manager, things like that. But I think she's back in private business now.
Okay.
But yeah, they are involved. Some of them are, a number of them are teachers in different places as well. Some of them have done some coaching as well. Yeah.
And you were in education all those years, left for a little bit, and now let our listeners know you're back in education. You already said you're down in the Columbus area, right?
Yeah, I'm actually teaching again at Central Crossing, which is in Grove City. It's the Southwestern City School District. A little bit different. I think we've got like 1,600 kids in the high school compared to about 500 at Wauseon. So it's a little bit different, but it's a great school district, great teachers, great kids down here, and the staff here. So it just felt like the right opportunity when we made this move. So I'm back at it, not back at the coaching aspect of it, but back at the teaching part of it.
All right. Well, Brad, thank you so much. I'll let you go. You've been generous with your time and looking back at this fantastic era of Wauseon Girls Basketball and, of course, the pinnacle 25 years ago winning the state championship back in 1997. Certainly thanks for the time and wish you and your family and everybody well as you continue on and in education now for you. Thanks again for spending some time with us and letting our listeners get a little inside peek into what was a state championship team.
Thanks a lot, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Brad Myers, who is the longtime head coach for the Wauseon Lady Indians, our guest here, state champs in 96-97's season. That's gonna wrap up our edition of Sports Weekly here on B-Rock.